Hey guys, my name is Mr. Biggs, and welcome back to the channel. Throughout my whole life, I've never completed a single Pokédex. However, I figure we should make it a goal to complete them all because of this. And to do that, I plan to start with Fire Red and Leaf Green. Here's how that went. So, starting off, we start just like any other playthrough of Fire Red and Leaf Green. We wake up in our room, talk to our mom, and instantly run outside and try to throw ourselves into danger by going into the tall grass with no Pokemon by our side. This is where Oak goes, "Hey Mr. Biggs, I like the way you think," and does the logical thing and rewards my actions by giving me my very own Pokemon. Assumedly to protect me the next time I try to swan dive into rat and bird infested grass. This starter choice does not necessarily matter, as I'm going to be trading over the other starters very soon. However, here I decide to go with my favorite starter, Wait a minute. You're telling me I didn't pick Squirtle? Okay, then fine. I'm fine with playing with What? I picked Charmander? Why did I pick Charmander? Okay. Oh, well, I mean, like I said, I'm about to get the other, so it's not that big of a deal. I'll just live with it for now. Anyway, I go ahead and head up to Viridian City, so I can grab Oak's parcel and bring it back to him. Since in his old age, it's getting a little hard for him to walk. Once he hands over my Pokedex, I get the Pokeballs from him, and finally I can start filling out the decks. This is where the real challenge begins, and the entire world opens up for me. I head straight up to Route 1 and get to cooking. This is where I start off by catching myself 2 Rattata and 2 Pidgey. Next, I head on over to the left of Viridian on Route 22 and end up catching 2 Spearow and 2 Mankey. After I get done adding those to my collection, I head up north to Route 2, where I catch myself 1 Pidgey, before continuing up and heading into Viridian Forest. Upon entering, I go ahead and catch myself 1 Caterpie, 1 Weedle, 2 Metapod, 2 Kakuna, and 2 Pikachu. But let's talk about those 2 Pikachu I caught. This is where I need to go more in-depth about what just happened. In this clip, what you're about to see blew my mind at the time.
Another Pikachu, 2 in a row.
So the math here for these Pikachus is actually rather simple. Each Pikachu has a 5% encounter rate, which in decimal form is 0.05. So, by calculating the odds of finding 1 Pikachu back to back, you multiply 0.05 by 0.05, getting 0.0025. I'd say that's pretty rare, and to all the math people out there that are probably yelling at me and telling me I'm wrong, just tell me in the comments. Around here is where I go ahead and trade myself over the other 2 starters off stream, because let me tell you, starting a fresh game, getting it to the point where you can trade to another game, and then running back and forth doing it over and over again is incredibly time consuming and not fun to watch, so just thank me that I saved you all the trouble. Unfortunately, the recording of me doing all that trading was lost because my driver that had it all on corrupted, which is unfortunate to say the least. So if you just see me with the starters with no explanation, just know that that's the explanation. On top of this, I also trade over all the version exclusives from my copy of the game that is farther along, but as well, it got corrupted. I'll try to have future trades on camera so I can at least put them in a montage, but for now, here's every Pokemon I catch off screen or evolve, so that way you won't be confused why I just have them in the future. Anyway, about this point I have Bulbasaur and Squirtle in my game, just not necessarily in my party yet. And I mean yet, because eventually I cave and decide the game will go by a lot faster if I have all 3 starters on my team, because that Fire, Water, Grass core is nothing to joke about. So, I go ahead and make my way out of the forest, leaving behind a trail of sad trainers and the smell of charred bug before I make my way to Pewter City. Charmander's finally finding his use in my team. Here, I go ahead and swap over to Bulbasaur for the gym because I want to have a strong Pokemon to ruin Misty's gym with once I'm done with Brock. So I walk into the gym, and I see him, the resilient Rock-type Ravager himself. Anyway, I go ahead and Vine Whip Brock's Pokemon and open them like Geodes, and then I start heading my way to Route 3. I get my running shoes, and I head onward towards Mount Moon. After I lay waste to every poor fool that did not expect me to have all 3 starters, including you, Youngster Ben, I'm sorry I cut your adventure short. Carrying on. I get to the grass and I go ahead and catch myself 2 Jigglypuff and 3 Nidoran females outside of Mount Moon, but I think it's about time we head on inside. Once inside, I go ahead and scrounge around for any items and try to avoid a few of the trainer battles. I make it through the floors, make it out to the Rocket Grunt at the end of the tunnel, collect my fossil, and oh, I almost forgot. I caught myself 2 Zubat, 2 Paris, and 2 Geodude. Whew. out of that cave and onto a new, wonderful route with more things to catch. So I go ahead and pick up... Oh, nothing. I just skipped this route completely. A shame. I go ahead and set forth upwards towards Nugget Bridge and fight all the trainers till I... Oh, wait, there's a rival battle! Which I win effortlessly. Brag about it to his face, and then I claim my nugget at the end of the bridge. But the guy who gives it to me seems a bit sketchy and starts talking about how the end is near and everybody that doesn't follow what he follows is going to one day regret it, and that the end times are... I beat him too and then keep heading up towards Bill, but not before stopping and taking a little detour in the grass on Route 24, so I can go ahead and catch myself 3 Abra and 3 Bellsprout. Once I add those extra few bonds to my collection, I start making my way through the field of bodyguards that Bill has outside his house and walk inside. Now, he seems to have turned himself into a Pokemon, which... First of all, nice. But second of all, I can't talk to him like this because he's all embarrassed, so I help him get back to normal, and then he thanks me by giving me free passes to a cruise ship. Wow, he's rich. I mean, he is like the co-inventor of the box system, right? After that, I get on my way back towards Misty. Obviously, when I get to Misty, her trainers have 0 effect on me, and now Ivysaur and I reach Misty, the wonderful water-type warrior herself. Once there, she falls by my hand, or I guess my vines. Yeah, vines work. Now that Misty's all taken care of, I can head on over to the house that was closed for a police investigation and trample around the crime scene and break all of their evidence. Once out of the house, I go ahead and start on my way south and proceed onwards through this underground tunnel that connects Cerulean and Vermilion, and you'll never guess where I head to next. That's right, the route right outside of Vermilion, Route 6, and for the first time in a while, I catch myself 2 Meowth. That's it? All this time with no Pokemon caught and I just catch 2 Meowth? Fair enough, I guess. After that, I go ahead and find myself inside of Vermilion, where I immediately head straight to the route to the right of the city, Route 11, where I catch myself 2 Sandshrew and 2 Drowsy. And once I finish up catching all those, I head to Diglett Cave, and now begins one of my favorite parts of the game, encountering for a Dugtrio over and over again until I catch one. And since I knew this was going to take a while, and since a lovely viewer requested that I do this, and, well, I thought it was funny, I went ahead and threw on some Subway Surfers to help keep the attention of the viewers. After that, I go ahead and quickly run through the entirety of SSN and beat all the trainers that are located in there before absolutely handing my rival's butt to him on a platter and then receiving cut from the counter of the ship after I give him the highest quality back rub possible. Now at this point, I think I'm sitting pretty. I've caught all the Pokemon available to me thus far, so now all I have to do... No, not him. Anything but him. I was purposely avoiding him. I don't need Mr. Mime, do I? I mean, really? After that nightmare of an experience, I head all the way back to Viridian City. Well, near it. I used Diglett Cave to go all the way back to Route 2 and trade one of my extra Abra I caught for a Mr. Mime, checking him off my Pokedex list. Making sure I never use him, I immediately stuff him into my box, and I am on my way. I finish up going through and struggling with the Lieutenant Surge puzzle with the trash cans, and make my way to the expert Electric-type Eraser and quickly beat his entire team with my Dugtrio that we will now lovingly refer to as Subway, and get myself the 3rd badge. With the power of the Thunder badge, I bolt on over to the route to the right of Cerulean, Route 10, and start barreling my way through trainers. And after catching myself 2 Voltorb, I reach the end of the route, and now I have made it to Rock Tunnel. Quick aside here, when I was young, I didn't know Flash existed, so when I played through this game like 8 different times as a kid, I never once used Flash, which means as a byproduct, I now have this whole tunnel mapped out in my big brain. But for the sake of content, I rip that cretin Mr. Mime from my box, teach him the worst move in the whole game other than Splash, and light the way so I don't give my viewers an aneurysm while they are trying to make sense of the Dark Tunnel. While inside, I take maybe like 3 steps until I'm thrown into an encounter with an Onix that really dislikes me. I mean almost mortal enemy status. He refused to let me finish my challenge to the form of what felt like boycotting the entire point of the game. Getting into one of my Pokeballs. After throwing 7 Pokeballs, spending about 3 minutes, and just being perfectly honest with him, he gives up and joins my decks. Now that I've caught this Onix, I can finally continue on to the next section of the game. I leave the tunnel and get flashbanged by the bright light of a town up ahead and finally reach Lavender Town. Once inside, I immediately leave because I am needed elsewhere, so I skip almost every trainer on this route and head straight to Celadon City. Once in the city, I go ahead and instantly pick up the coin case. I'll be needing this later. After that, I take a fairly short walk on over to Erica's gym where I leave all of her assistant trainers in tears, and then I approach that graceful grass-type gardener and leave all of her Pokemon in embers and covered in scratch marks from my Charmeleon and Pidgeotto once again. After I heal up, I grab my Eevee from the top of the building next to the Pokemon Center and head into the department store to buy some things. After I buy all the items that I thought I needed at the time, I go ahead and evolve my Pikachu into Raichu, my Growlithe into Arcanine, and my Shellder into Cloyster. Now that I have made some more progress, I get the most useful tool in all of early Pokemon, the Fly HM. With its power, I immediately ignore it and head to the route to the left of Celadon where I catch myself 2 Doduo and call it a day. Now I head back to Route 22, and I can finally catch myself 2 Vulpix. Immediately after catching them, I evolve one of them into Ninetales and decide it's time to head into the Rocket Bay. Oh wait, those lights are pretty. Now I head into the Rocket Base and take it down one trainer at a time until my Ivysaur finally evolves into Venusaur. Once I'm out of their base and have the Silph Scope, I move along to the Lavender Tower, beat my rival, climb the whole thing, and save Mr. Fuji. But not before catching myself 1 Ghastly and 2 Hunters. After Lavender Tower, I head back to Route 16 and decide it's now time to fight Snorlax. This man is a behemoth. Annoying, and above all else, is hard to catch. So I turn my hat backwards, and I prepare to fight this thing. Once I finish up with that load of garbage, I finally head on down through Cycling Road and finally make it to Fuchsia City, where upon arrival, I beeline it straight to the Safari Zone. Once inside the Safari Zone, I catch myself 1 Chansey, 1 Pinsir, 1 Kangaskhan, 2 Nidorino, 2 Execute, 2 Rhyhorn, 1 Goldeen, 1 Tauros, 1 Dratini, 1 Seaking, and 2 Dragonair. Then, I head over to Route 12 to go get myself the Super Rod. With that unlocked, we have achieved a wide variety of encounter options, and I will now capitalize on all of them. Hello? Yes? What? I don't. What do you mean I had the Silphco? Alright, fine. I enter into Saffron to take on Silphco and end up fighting my way through some dude's dojo, and then he gives me a Hitmonlee for some reason. I enter into Silphco, do myself a couple puzzles, and then I end up finding myself the card key. Using the card key, I go on an absolute trainer killing spree and find my way to my rival. He just got done talking with some Giovanni guy, and now he decided to wait outside the teleporter that leads to him so he could stop me from fighting him. Wait, is my rival evil? I beat my rival and head down a few feet to a room where a well-dressed man who totally isn't evil sits. After I listen to his evil plan, I beat him rather easily and take the Master Ball for myself because the old man who owns it is extremely rich. After I finish up with Silph, I go ahead and take on Sabrina's gym, which is kind of pitiful at this point, so I will refer to her as the pitiful psychic-type failure. And since I fared so well against Sabrina, I immediately head down to good old Koga and Fuchsia and beat up every trainer he associates with, and then the passionate poison-type Prowler himself. After gaining access to Surf, I head on over to the route under Pallet Town and catch myself a Tangela before continuing down the route on the back of my lovely Blastoise. When I end up making it all the way to Cinnabar Island, I made a mad dash for the scientist and go ahead and revive myself an Aerodactyl and a Kabuto. Once he's done not being able to make up his mind on what level of impatient he is, I head into the Pokemon Mansion. This place was confusing for 6-year-old me, but 23-year-old me is a different story. I head inside, make my way over to this guy, and obviously remember that you fall down this side. Wait, I'm not in the right spot. Okay, let's just go back and do it again. Haha, see, I told you I knew what I was doing! Anyway, while I'm here, I catch myself a Coughing, Wheezing, Grimer, Muck, and a Ditto. The Ditto, however, took a little longer than I wanted to. Once I catch all of them, I head back into the island proper and head into the gym to face off against the fearsome fire-type figurehead and genuinely one-shot all of his Pokemon with my Blastoise. Sorry, not sorry, Blaine. Once through, I go to try and heal, and Bill comes back and tries to get me to run away with him to a distant set of islands, but I tell him no for now because I have plans for this world. So I run as fast as I can over to Viridian City, where it's been rumored that the Ground-type gym finally reopened its doors, and I just so happen to be looking for my 8th badge. So after one-shotting all the Pokemon his trainers have, I finally make it to the leader, where it is revealed that the leader is none other than Giovanni himself. So I challenge the greedy ground-type gang leader, and well, I one-shot all of his Pokemon with my Blastoise again. So let's just start making our way to Victory Road, where might I add, absolutely crush it. I mean, I ran through that place so fast. Look, I made it here so fast, you might even be able to ignore the fact that I wiped to the Elite Four here. Oh, I wiped to the Elite Four here. Yeah, so I totally underestimated how strong I would need to be to make my way through them, so I had to stop stream here and go grind up my Pokemon, do some trades, eat food, and, you know, live my life. So the next day I come back after all that, and I am ready. I still ended up under-leveling my team somehow, but it'll be fine this time, right? I make my way towards Lorelei, and I quickly get rid of her Dugong and Lapras with my Alakazam. Slowbro comes in, and I know I won't be able to do much, so I swap out to Venusaur to deal damage with him. However, he immediately falls asleep, so I swap to Blastoise, who quickly dispatches the Slowbro. The Jinx gets swapped in now, and it's the same story. Blastoise carries once again, and Lorelei is defeated. Next up is Bruno. I lead with Pidgeot since he's a fighting-type trainer, but forgot that he's actually a rock-type trainer because he leads with Onix, so I may or may not swap to Blastoise for that and quickly show that Onix who's boss. Then Hitmonchan comes in, and I go to Pidgeot now, and after some attacks, Hitmonchan goes down as well with no issue. He chooses Machamp now, so I swap to Alakazam here and set up Calm Mind that allows me to one-shot Machamp. Hitmonlee comes in and I two-shot him, although it does put my Alakazam all the way to 32 HP. So I swap to Blastoise with the last Onix he has and leave Bruno defeated. I go ahead and walk into Agatha's room now, love the Lavender Tower music for her room by the way, and heal up before I start the fight. Once in the fight, she leads with her first Gengar, and I hit myself in confusion every single time for the full duration while he sets up 6 double teams. Eventually, I finish off that Gengar with a few bites, and then she sends out her Golbat. One Psychic from my Alakazam leaves that Golbat on the floor, and she sends out Arbok and Gengar next to meet the exact same fate. She swaps to a Haunter next, and I swap Charizard and Flamethrower him to Ash to secure myself a victory over Agatha as well. Lastly, in the Elite Four, we have everybody's favorite dragon-ish, Trainer Lance. He leads with Gyarados, and I swap out to my Venusaur and slowly whittle him down until it faints. Next up comes the Aerodactyl, which I regret to inform you falls to Blastoise in one shot. Dragonair comes out next, which falls in one shot to Blastoise as well, and then he sends out Dragonite, who starts styling on my team, and leaves me scared and shaking for a second. But after a good bit of Toxic Stall from Nidoking, he goes down and I claim victory over the entire Elite Four. However, he was not the champion. In fact, it's revealed that somebody I know recently just became the champion moments before I arrived. He must be doing a Living Dex too if it took him this long to get here. So last but not least, we have one final fight with our rival to decide who comes out on top. But I didn't get to heal my team between fights, so I start scrambling to heal everything at the start of the battle and let my Nidoking be a valiant sacrifice to allow my team to be healthy. So in doing that, the Pidgeot poisoned itself on my Nidoking, and when Alakazam comes out, Pidgeot goes down rather quick, but puts me low, so I swap out to Charizard. When the Blastoise comes in, I immediately swap back over to Venusaur to get the job done. Next up is Alakazam, and well, I send out Blastoise. Next up is Rhydon, which unfortunately is going up against my Blastoise. Now he sends out Exeggutor, who I swapped to Charizard for, and a Flamethrower or two goes down. Lastly, for his final stand, he sends out Arcanine, and of course, I swap out to Blastoise. And just like that, I'm the champion. But who cares about that? We have Pokemon to catch! So during the credit sequence, I look up all the locations of everything I have left to catch, and then get to work. I go ahead and evolve my Eevees into Flareon, Jolteon, and Vaporeon, and use that Jolteon to catch 1 Poliwag and 3 Poliwhirls on Route 6. I use a Water Stone to evolve 1 Poliwhirl into Poliwrath, and then I trade the last one to receive a Jinx from the Mana Cerulean. I also use a Spearow to trade for Farfetch'd and Vermilion and catch myself a Krabby and 2 Staryu on the water of Vermilion City. I then promptly evolve one of them into Starmie, and then box both of them for good. Next, I head over to the Seafoam Islands where I catch a Seal, Dugong, and another Slowbro so I can trade it for a Lickitung. Head over to Celadon next and catch myself 2 Magikarp, one of which is over level 20, so I simply just rare candy him up and voila, I have myself a Gyarados. Then I head back up to Cerulean. I know, this order is annoying for me too, but that doesn't stop me from catching myself 3 Horsey that I will be saving for later. Then, right before I end that stream, I catch myself a Magnemite, a Magneton, and lastly, I need to prepare myself for this next one. See, it's getting to the end game now, and while I'm here, a certain legendary bird lies dormant within this power plant. Zapdos. So once I find out where he's hiding, I run up to him and prepare for a long, drawn-out battle where I try for ages to I throw a Master Ball. Once I'm done with that, I finally go and head back to Cinnabar Island. There, I meet up with Bill and he takes me to the Sevi Islands, and I am introduced to the wonders of late-game, early Pokemon games. There are so many things to do, like go to this island and visit the forest, go to this island and visit the cave, go to this island and visit the cave. Jokes aside though, I had never made it past Islands 1 through 3, so getting the last 4 islands was actually pretty cool to me. When I was a kid, I had no idea that the Ruby and Sapphire were even objects in this game, and even now it looks weird to see them in it. But nonetheless, I go ahead and make my way to the island game corner where I meet this guy who named his daughter Lostel, who is coincidentally currently lost. So we go find her within the forest on the island and defeat this Hypno before it can hurt her. We return her to her father and almost run out of the room before handing him the meteorite I was told to deliver him. Once done, I head back to Bill and tell him the news, and I am immediately transported back to Kanto. Once back in Kanto, I go ahead and immediately head back to the Sevi Islands, and once there, I head over to Mount Ember. Making my way up to the summit, I see him. Moltres. This little buffoon wasted a large chunk of my time and made me very angry to the point that I put the Subway Surfers back on again, baby! But in the end, I catch him. Afterward, I go through and clear out the rest of the Sevi Islands so I can open up Cerulean Cave, and then head back to Kanto. Now starts my biggest nightmare. You see, I've already explained that I have never completed the Pokedex in this game, so that means I have never gotten to catch a Mewtwo in this game before. I have never once entered Cerulean Cave. This means I have never felt the pain of trying to catch a Mewtwo before now. Now you may have noticed that the Subway Surfers is still on, and that is because I realized how long this is going to take and bit the bullet by leaving it on until I've captured all the legendaries. But genuinely, this entire fight with Mewtwo, down to throwing the Ultra Ball that ends up catching him, took a full real-life hour. Once I finished up with him, and I made it to the Seafoam Islands, I quickly made my way down to Articuno. And knowing my luck with Mewtwo, it definitely took me... Huh? It only took me 18 balls? That's a relief. But what wasn't a relief is what I had saved for last. I had caught every Pokemon. I owned every form of them as well. My living dex was complete, except for one deviously cruel Pokemon. Porygon. The Mon I needed last was the one I had put off for the entire game until now. The only way to get a Porygon is to buy him from the game corner for 6,500 coins. So that being said, either I sit there and painstakingly gamble for 4 hours while I try to figure out the timing of the slots, or I go ahead and spend money on the coins and boost myself as far forward into the gambling process as possible. So, like any self-respecting trainer, I did the most sensible thing. I went into my bag and sold genuinely every item that I owned, and then spent all of my money on coins. Each set of 500 coins costs 10,000 Poke-Yen in-game. That means every 1,000 coins costs a total of 20,000 Poke-Yen, and Porygon, as we know from before, costs a total of 6,500. That means if I wanted to outright buy a Porygon, I would need 130,000 Poke-Yen? Wow! So, I just go ahead and liquidate my net worth, and I have a total of 4,765 coins to bump us forward, and 192 Poke-Yen left to my name. After I get done with, honestly, a surprising display of pure skill and aptitude for slots, I have a total of 6,084 coins, and I have an idea. I know that I hadn't beaten all of the late game trainers and some of the early game gamers and rich guys, so if I just went and fought a few of them, I could easily get those last 500 coins with my money and my big brain. When I return with all the coins I need, and I walk up to that sad sap behind the counter and ask for a copy of Porygon. After I get him into my inventory, I have officially, and I mean officially, completed the Pokedex as well as my living dex. Now, This was all condensed over the course of 6 streams and totaled to 17 hours, 47 minutes, and 42 seconds streamed in total. But in total, this took me well over 45 hours to complete with how much grinding and evolving I had to end up doing off camera. And I usually end up streaming Pokemon here on YouTube, but I also stream non-Pokemon content over on Twitch. But anyway, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And if you've made it this far, what have you got to lose? Anyway, I've been that Mr. Biggs. Thanks for watching.